Holy shit, it's back. It's actually back. 22 years later, a new Chocobo racing game. Yeah, in case you didn't know and you thought this new game that was just announced for the Switch, Chocobo GP, or Chocobo Grand Prix as it's known in Japan, in case you thought this was Square's first venture into kart racing games, it's not. It's actually a follow-up or a reboot to a game from the PlayStation 1 that was released back in 1999, 22 years ago, called Chocobo Racing. I absolutely adore that game and always hoped it would get a sequel. And there was one announced many years ago for the 3DS called Chocobo Racing 3D, but it was cancelled. And after that, it seemed all hope was lost for a new Chocobo racing game. Except last year, Square trademarked Chocobo GP. And everyone started wondering, and I personally started fearing the worst because I thought, oh yeah, it's gonna be a gacha game for mobiles full of microtransactions. But no, it's actually a real game for the Nintendo Switch. Holy hell. So I don't know about you guys, but as far as I'm concerned, that trailer was the highlight of that Nintendo Direct. So I'm gonna go over what we learned from it. Well, actually there were two trailers. One in the Nintendo Direct, and then another one that was posted in the Square Enix channel, and they're actually different trailers with, different information. So we actually learned a lot from both, so let's go over it. So starting with the mechanics, I see a pretty big difference right off the bat, which is drifting now gives you a boost, like in Mario Kart. Which is fine, I mean, that's basically a staple of kart racing games these days. Everyone expects it, and it's a fun mechanic, so I don't mind them adopting it as well. The original had a different thing going, where you had to brake in order to slide and drift, and it was pretty tricky. But what really set it apart from Mario Kart and other games of that genre was its ability system and its item system. The abilities were unique skills that you could equip at the start of a race, and each character sort of had their own default ability, but the game let you pick any skill with any character. And you could use each skill periodically throughout the race, and each skill had a different charging time, depending on its power. So you actually had another major tool in your arsenal besides the items that you picked up throughout the race, adding another layer of depth to the gameplay. But not only you had that ability, the items themselves worked very differently from your average kart racing game. I mean, for starters, they made great use of the Final Fantasy lore because the items were magic stones which contained spells like fire, blizzard, thunder, reflect, doom, etc. And the thing was, you could hold 3 items at once, and once you picked them up, you carried them behind your back, and if other players bumped into them, they could actually steal your items. And this made it risky to hold the items for too long, except you kinda wanted to do it because the items, the magic spells, could evolve into stronger versions. And this adds a great strategic element because you have to make the choice, should I carry these items for a while to try and upgrade them? Or should I use the magic spells right away before anyone steals them? Now, from these trailers, it's clear that the items do evolve as well in GP, but it's still unclear if you can steal them here. I hope you do, because otherwise it would kind of be a little too safe to try and evolve them, but we'll see. So now let's move on to what everyone is probably most hyped about, which is, the characters, the playable characters, the racers in Chocobo GP. See, Chocobo Racing and now Chocobo GP are part of a larger series within the Final Fantasy series, a sub-series known as the Chocobo series, which follows the adventures of a Chocobo, a particularly cute one, I should say. The series has many types of games, and it has developed its own cast, which comprises the roster of the original Chocobo Racing. As you can see, we already know many of these will be coming back: Chocobo, Mog, Behemoth, the white mage known as Shiroma, which is a mixture of the words Shiro and Madoshi, meaning white mage in Japanese. She's representing the classic white mage job class, but she is her own character with an actual personality and development, and she's pretty fun and pretty popular too. You know who's not quite as popular? Kuroma, the black mage from the original Chocobo Racing, who has, in all probability been replaced with Vivi in this one. Vivi from Final Fantasy IX. Yeah, I'm not complaining. It's fucking Vivi. But it's not just Vivi, Steiner is coming along as well. How's that for some Final Fantasy IX love? Now you gotta wonder if this is because the character designer for the game is also the character designer from Final Fantasy IX, Toshiyuki Itahana, or if this means there's going to be more reps from other Final Fantasy games. They're not the first cameos from mainline Final Fantasy games, since the original Chocobo Racing had both Squall and Cloud as playable characters as well. But the addition of Vivi and Steiner do make you wonder if this one is gonna lean more into that sort of thing and become sort of a halfway point between the classic Chocobo Racing roster, which is more composed of, creatures and monsters and job classes, that kind of iconic stuff from the series, and a bit of the City of Final Fantasy kart racing, as a crossover where characters from various different Final Fantasy games come together and play against one another. Now, I love the original Chocobo Racing roster, but I would definitely be open to more characters like that, more cameos from the mainline games. That would be pretty sweet. In fact, I already have an idea for a wishlist video for, what characters I'd like to see the most and what vehicles I see them riding on. But before we get into that, let's take another look at the characters from the Chocobo series. So from the main roster, that is, excluding the unlockable secret characters, we are still missing, from the original game, Golem, Goblin, Fat Chocobo, or as his name was translated in that game, Chubby Chocobo, a funnier translation in my opinion, and Bahamut. Now, I don't think Bahamut will be playable in Chocobo GP, because in the trailer, they specifically point out that your ride must have wheels. And, Bahamut doesn't have a ride with wheels. He actually, used his own wings to fly. That's how you played the same in the original. And also, Shiroma, in the original game, her vehicle was actually a flying carpet. But now, it's a cart with wheels. So that makes me think that Bahamut is probably gonna be, relegated to an NPC at best. But guess what? In the direct trailer, we see that there's already a summon that might be his replacement. That's right, none other than Old Man Ramu. He is one of the 5 new characters we have seen so far in these trailers. Ramu, Gilgamesh from Final Fantasy V, who appears in a ton of different Final Fantasy games, Vivi and Steiner from Final Fantasy IX, and finally we have another Chocobo, a rather feminine looking one. So yeah, the roster is looking pretty damn cool so far, and I can't wait to find out more, and it seems we'll find out more at Tokyo Game Show, so look forward to that. Forget about Smash Brothers reveals, it's all about Chocobo GP reveals now, man. And it's not just characters, we also have the racing tracks to look forward to, with the trailers already confirming Cid's test track from the original Chocobo Racing, Zozo from Final Fantasy VI, that should be fun, Gold Saucer from Final Fantasy VII, a theme park, makes total sense, and Alexandria from Final Fantasy IX. Oh, and the direct trailer also gave us a hint of what the background music for the Alexandria racetrack might be. Try listening closely to the song that starts playing like halfway through the trailer. That's right, it's Melodies of Life. I swear, man, this game is the gift that keeps on giving. We've even got Vivi riding on a cart that's shaped after Seed Fabul from Final Fantasy IX. The Oglob Seed. How fucking awesome is that? This game is... It's fan service done right, is what it is. Oh, and it's also been confirmed that the game will have a story mode as well, just like the original Chocobo Racing, and that's a relief because even though it was relatively short, the story was a big part of the charm of the original game, because it was just so endearing and it was just about, the sweetest and most loving tribute to the Final Fantasy series you could ask for. It had so much heart and soul, and you really came to care about these characters that previously, were just random monsters like the Behemoth and a Goblin or a Golem. They all became full-fledged characters. And their interactions and adventures were some really good lighthearted fun, and I can only hope that Chocobo GP has a similar story mode. So yeah, bottom line is, the hype is real, baby. I'm so excited for this game, and 2022 can't come soon enough. And in the meantime, I'll be here covering this game, making videos about it, and making videos about other Final Fantasy games, and other games in general. So if you enjoyed this video, please press that like button, and consider subscribing to the channel. I have a lot of fun videos planned, and hopefully you'll be along with me for the ride. Alright, see you later, Chocobros.